Hello, nice to see you again, and welcome to Voices and Votes, brought to you live. I'm Yang Rui. Judicial reform is a critical part of the current campaign to crack down upon corruption and to advance criminal prosecution. Mr. Xiao Yang, the Chief Justice, and Mr. Jia Chunwang, the top prosecutor, both delivered their work reports to the People's Deputies Monday morning at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. Noteworthy this time around is that both emphasize the importance of a fair trial and safeguarding human rights to implement the rule of law and protect social stability. Today, in this edition of our live coverage about the current NPC and CPPCC sessions, we are pleased to have invited Professor He Jiahong with Renmin University, Mr. Edward Lehman, Managing Director of Lehman, Lee & Xu, and Dr. Charles Lee, Founder Chairman of Charles Lee Enterprises, to join our live discussion here.
Corruption is a matter of life and death in China. The Communist Party vows to punish corrupt officials no matter how important the positions they hold. Between 2003 and June of 2007, the government has investigated 160,000 corruption cases across the country. Most of the officials were sacked for engaging in exchanges of influence for money, sex, and gifts. One of them is Zheng Xiaoyu, former director of the State Food and Drug Administration. He was sentenced to death in May last year and was executed about 2 months later. The former Food and Drug Security Chief was found guilty of taking nearly 6.5 million yuan in bribes and dereliction of duty. His execution is the first time China has imposed a death sentence on an official of his rank since 2000. However, corruption cannot be eradicated solely through punishment. A mechanism that also combines prevention is crucial. In September 2007, the National Corruption Prevention Bureau was established. The new agency is the answer to a UN convention China signed in 2005 to help the country learn from the experience of the international community.
The founding of the Bureau is a significant step by the Communist Party of China and to meet the need to effectively prevent corruption in China.
The Bureau is the only state-level one of its kind. It will study ways to stem corruption at the roots, improve prevention, and coordinate the corruption prevention efforts of various departments. Meanwhile, authorities are working hard to eradicate environments where corruption is relatively easy to hide. Government procurement is now being moved to open bidding. Any changes in the permitted use of land is also open to the public. These measures reduce opportunities for officials to be involved in under-the-table business.
Many of the suspects in these corruption cases committed their crimes many years ago. Nowadays, corrupt officials have to bear much more risk once they start their evil affairs. Public surveys on the public's reaction to the anti-corruption drive shows their satisfaction is going up.
Experts say it's the responsibility of the entire country to form a clean environment where corruption is difficult to engage in, and the government will continue its high-pressure policy against it.
Welcome back to the studio discussion. Joining us now here are Professor He Jiahong, Mr. Lehman, and Dr. Charles Lee. Well, gentlemen, the Chinese have talked about the rule of law for years, and starting from 1997, we talked about the judicial reform to a large degree. Now, it seems the more we talk about the rule of law and the more we have done, the more cases have been exposed by the media about corruption, about the, different crimes. I'm wondering aloud whether this is a matter of greater transparency, or is it because we're going to have more corrupt officials and more criminals anyway, despite the very tough implementation of the laws, which are pretty draconian?
I think that's a social problem at this time. This is a very special time for China. That's a transit period. So we do have more and more crimes, including the corruptions of public officials. Of course, the media played a very good role in disclose those cases to the public, to increase or promote the awareness of the public about the problem we are facing now. But we don't have the very sufficient statistics about the increase of the crimes. But according to my feeling, we are having more and more crime.
Well, I mean, but again, crime has been here since the first, since the first people lived here, of course. I mean, and so the idea of transparency, greater transparency, I think is really what's made things happen and made things go forward. And the idea that the press is bringing a lot of this to bear in press reports, even us talking about it today on Voices and Votes. We're able to talk about these issues, and people, the masses, can understand these issues better.
And I'm afraid the public perception will be shaped by the media coverage about what's going on. Therefore, they got a strong impression and feeling that the society is hopelessly corrupt. I mean, this is something we try to avoid, to misguide the public perception. This is part of the media concern, of course. And Dr. Charles Li, I wonder if you agree. And how do you assess, basically, the legal situation in this country?
Well, I relate that to culture.
Culture?
Yes, because the legal system in China has 5,000 years of history. The Western legal system started from the Roman Empire time. And the Chinese legal system is established by the families. Whichever family is in power, they establish the legal system. And the ultimate decision maker or the interpretation of law was the emperor. In other words, it's a people ruling law versus the legal ruling law in the Western world. And therefore, in answering your previous question about what's happening, I believe it's a combination of three things. Transparency is there, but it's in the middle. But it's the determination of the leadership and the demand of the people combined, and the media is able to report more of such a situation.
I was impressed very much by a leading article in one of the editions of The Economist, a prestigious journal that I like very much, which says what's happening in China at this moment combines the Industrial Revolution in the 17th century with the post-war prosperity, as well as the capital market and all the miracles arising from the age of globalization. And we put these three things together, and you have a very bizarre picture about the civilization of this country. So when we talk about corruption, I'd like to associate what's happening in this country, which is not a so rosy picture, with what happened in the early days of the industrialization in Western countries. So do you think this is something that can be compared?
I think the answer is yes. In many countries in the world, they have the same or similar experience. But for here, I would like to put it into another angle. During the reports made by the Chief Justice Xiao Yang and the Prosecutor General Jia Chunwang, they attach greater importance to some points. For example, the